So this is what we're going to make, as you've seen in the little intro. We're going to make a Chef Gnome. One of my viewers or subscribers wanted me to make one and show her. She wants to put it in the window of her shop. So I'm going to show you how I made it. This one's a little shorter, so I'm going to show you. We're going to do a taller one today, but it's going to be the same. I will have what I can for the pattern. For the hat, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to fit that circle on a 8.5 by 11 for the pattern, but I will give you the size, and the supplies, the material list will be with the free PDF with the pattern, which is in the description box below the video. Okay, so you're just going to click on that link. So for the supplies, you're going to need, for the body, I'm going to do a tan fleece. And we're going to do it, this was the shorter one, and this is the taller one. So I'm going to do this one today, and I will have these in the pattern in the free PDF. And the arms are out of this also. The hat and the oven mitts are out of white fleece. And this is how big the circle is. And we're going to sew this. There's no way of getting around without sewing this to gather it up. And then we're going to hot glue it on. So that actually worked out pretty good. So the white fleece is for the hat and the little oven mitts. And I'm going to show you how to do the oven mitts. Very easy. And they actually turned out really good. And then if you want to do a towel, I didn't do one on this one because when I did his pocket, I stuck it right underneath his beard. And I'm going to show you how I made a rolling pin. It's pretty easy, but it requires a tool, and I'll go over that with you. So if you want to do a towel, we're going to do the pocket differently so you can play. So it will be, the pockets will be over here on the side instead of in the middle. For the arms, you're going to need pipe cleaners and either some fleece or some batting. I use batting just to wrap around the arm a little bit, just to give it a little bit of substance in there. So you're going to need that. For the apron, and then the tie, and then I just put a little bow on his hat, you're going to need some kind of fabric, and this is like a quilting fabric. I get this at Hobby Lobby, and they do have one that's coordinating. It's very, very pretty. It has florals, so they go together, they coordinate. So we're going to do it out of this one, and I think it turned out really cute with the colors. And then I didn't have any blonde fur, and I'm going to show you how I cut that black off to get it to look like this. Because if you look really close, you might be able to see some. So I'll show you how I did that. And so you're going to need fur, you're going to need stuffing, either rice or rocks, or something to weight it down. For the nose, you can either use a felted ball, a wooden bead. I wouldn't use one of the wooden bead like ball knobs that are really big, because when your nose protrudes out, you're going to have to get this hat, and it just makes it harder. Your hat has to be bigger, so it's easier, and you can see I made it flatter. So, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. We're going to sew it, and we're going to do an oval, and this is that Jet Set nude fabric that I get at Joann's. It's called Jet Set, the color nude. I will try to leave it in the description box, okay? And I'm going to show you how I'm going to use these. So we're going to use those, and I think that's it. So let me get this put away, and then we'll get started. Okay, I'm back. Let me get my cutting mat. So you're going to need, I'm going to have the pattern like I said below. And you're going to trace your pattern. You're going to cut it out on the cutting line. And your 1/4 inch seam allowance is in here. So you're going to cut on the cutting line, and then you're going to go either glue in right on that edge or sew a 1/4 inch in. Okay, so we're going to cut this out, and I keep misplacing my scissors. And I just had them. I know I have the bigger pair. And I've been doing craft fairs, so some of my other scissors I've put in my craft fair stuff and brought it with me. I have to make sure I'm in camera. So cut this out on the cutting line. And excuse my sniffling and coughing because I do have a cold. Okay. So if you're going to hot glue this, and I'm not going to glue the whole thing, you're going to make sure you have right sides together, and this one I didn't. So you're going to put right sides together, and you're going to start to glue. See if I can get you a little closer. You're going to glue, I wouldn't glue any more than probably a couple inches at a time. You're going to go right close to the edge of that fabric. Make sure they're lined up and press it down, and you're going to let it dry. And you're going to go along and do the whole thing. Because if you do too big of a strip, by the time you get your fabrics pressed together, that first glue, that you strip of glue you put down, has already started hardening. And you're going to leave this open, and you're just going to do this, the both sides, this side and this side. Don't do anything with the bottom. And then, well, let me quickly do this, because if you want to hot glue it, I'm going to show you how to do it, I guess, because I know there's people out there that don't sew. If you want to hand sew it, you can hand sew it. So you're going to have to press that down, but we're going to have to let that dry. So while that's drying, I will go over the ones that we sew. So we're going to let that dry. So for the ones you're going to sew, and this is the one that, oh, I'm going to be right back. I just dumped my rice. Okay, I'm back after dumping my rice. So like I said, this is the one I hot glued. I do not like that. You're going to cut out your pattern. You're going to sew from either the short or the long end all the way down both sides. Then you're going to take the base, and I will have that. You're going to pin this on. And I guess I'll take part of it off. So I always find like the center of one side of it, if there's a side, and line it up with the seam and pin it. And then I go to the other side and try to find the opposite of the one I just pinned and pin that. And then I go to the side between the seams on the body, and then I go to the other side and pin it. And then you're going to sew. You can either hand sew that, and this is the same way you're going to hot glue it. I would pin it like this, and then you're going to get clamps, and you're going to do a little bit at a time. You're going to put a little bit of glue, and then you're going to clamp it. And you're going to take your pin out. You're going to put a little bit more glue. I probably wouldn't go any more than 2 inches of a strip of glue. And then you're going to clip it. And you're going to work that all the way around. When you get over here, you can probably take these off because that glue has dried, and use those. These clips I get from the Dollar Tree, but any kind of clip will work, even a clothespin. So you go all the way around. So you do not want to glue or sew this short end shut, because that's how you're going to turn it right side out. If you were going to do this on the machine, and I'm not going to show you because the way I have my camera set up, I would have to take everything all down and bring you over to the machine. So when we have it pinned, and I have to get everything repinned, and I'm going to try to show you and talk you through this without going to the machine. So how I sew it is I will make sure this is all flat, and when I put it under my presser foot, if you sew, you know what I'm talking about. I don't start on a pin. I start either before or after. And when you come to the pin, if you want to take it out, that's fine. I usually do. So you're going to go 1/4 inch or a little bit more in, and I grab onto this, and when that presser foot is down sewing, I will turn it. And if you go slow, you know, you don't have to go really slow, but if you go, you know, not really fast, okay, medium speed, you should be able to go all the way around and make sure that this bottom doesn't get tucked under, and that you're sewing through both of these, okay? And when you get all done, it's going to look like this, okay? If you're going to hot glue it, you're going to do just how I showed you and let those clamps sit on. As they dry, take them and then move them around. And this is what you get. I did hot glue these sides, which aren't too bad. I still prefer sewing. So if you want to hot glue, that's how you're going to do it. So we have our body, and we're going to turn this right side out, and then we're going to take and add our rice. We don't need anything on the bottom because I'm going to put enough rice in that it will be weighted down enough. And I think I need a measuring cup. Let's see, I'm going to get my cup, my glass that I usually use. So I'm going to probably put a good cup or more of rice in, and I'm going to try not to spill this. And when you cut this, I forgot to tell you, cut it on the stretch. So when you're laying it on your fabric and you're laying that pattern down, make sure it stretches this way. You will thank yourself later. Same with your arms. When you're laying your pattern down, make sure it stretches. And then you're going to take and pour your rice in. Like I said, you can use rocks, you can use, I've tried the poly pellets, and they're not heavy enough for me. I think I'm even going to add a little bit more. There we go. And then we're going to stuff it. And you want to stuff it so it looks nice, so you don't have any big bulges in your body. I'm going to get my pins out of the way. I had to take some tea. So when you get that tucked down there, I kind of try to tuck it around my body. I'm just going to get a bunch up here. Or not around the body, around the rice. So that it looks all nice and uniform and there's no bulges. And you're going to stuff it all the way to the top. And then just keep tucking it and working it down. And I will show you, if you do have some bulges, I'll show you what you can do. And then if you got it really fat like this, take and kind of squeeze it up. And so you can see I kind of have some bulges. So what I can do is take a thick pin needle and poke it in there and pull out that stuffing. And you don't want to try to rip your material. You're just trying to move that stuffing around, so you can pop some of it out if it's looking a little like you got too many bulges or whatever. And I don't want it really, really fat on the bottom. So that's why I kind of go like this, and then I can make it taller. If we get up to here and I think I need to take some some stuffing out, I will. Okay, so that looks good. And then we're just going to sew the top of this shut. I had some thread. And you can, I'm going to keep this really long in case I need it for something else, but just tie a knot. And then you're just going to do a running stitch right along that top edge. We're not going to try and close this up. My needle might be kind of big. We're not going to close the top up all the way. We don't have to close it up all the way. But before I close it up, I want to make sure I don't have to take any stuffing out. So this is just your basic running stitch. If you want to learn how to hand sew, go on YouTube and search up basic hand sewing stitches. There are a lot of them out there for different types of things you're going to sew or different stitches. And I'm going to go on the inside. And like I said, we don't have to close it up all the way. And then just take, it doesn't matter if your knot is showing because it's going to get covered up by your hat. So just take a loop and go through your loop a couple of times. So just make a couple of knots and just leave a little bit of a tail. So we have our body. Now we're going to work on our arms. And I sewed mine on the one I showed you. I'm going to show you how to hot glue. It's just the same as we did the body. I think I need a glue stick. So you're going to run a bead of glue. And I just do a little bit. And you're going to glue right sides together and then press that down. And then do a little bit more. Make sure your edges line up. And then take and put a little bit more glue in there. And you're just doing this on the long edge. Don't close up the ends, the short edge, because you got to turn this right side out. And you don't really have to clamp this one. You just have to make sure that everything is pressed together. And you're going to let that dry really well. So while that's drying, we're going to cut out our mittens. And I have the pattern. And I don't know what I did with it. There it is. So I will have this below. I had to actually make, I made one and it was too big, so I had to make a smaller one. So you're just going to trace around. And I just trace around on the wrong side with the pencil. And I'm going to show you an easy way to cut this out. So I start on this side of the mitten. And you want to cut two out at once. So then you're going to have the same size. You're going to have both for the one mitten cut out all at the same time. Okay? So you're doing two pieces at once. So I'm starting right here. I'm going to come around. And I'm going to go. And I'm going to bypass this. I'm not going to cut down there yet. And I'm going to go around with the thumb and go in here. Okay, so I started here, cut around, did not go in by the thumb, and went down. And now when I come in, I'm going to go, I can trim a little bit more off by that thumb. And I'm going to go down, and you got to make sure you're getting through both pieces. Cut down a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to come over here and cut this. And that's the easiest way to cut that little V in there. And how we're going to glue this, I already have this one glued. So if you want the right sides together, because I think I traced these with wrong side, you're going to have to flip them. And if they're, like you can see, mine is a little bigger That's okay. We'll worry about that. Well, I'm going to trim some of it off now because we have to glue it. But I will show you what we're going to do. Okay, so I'm going to redo this. I'm going to insert this because when I videotaped the most of the video, when I did this mitten, the oven mitt, you could not see how I was doing it. So how I'm going to do it, I'm going to start right on this. I have my mitten, I have the 2 pieces, I've cut it out. So to hot glue it and to show you the way that I found a good way to do it without sewing it is I'm going to start and I'm going to go right along that edge. And I'm going to go up here. Make sure you get 1 continuous bead of glue. And if you get a little bit, it comes out, don't worry about it. We'll take care of that. So you're going to pinch these edges together. Just like that. All the way where you have put that glue. Okay? So you're going to pinch them. I got to try to stay in focus. And you're going to open it up. And then try to do the rest of it. And if we end up closing up the thumb, it's no big deal because I kind of had on one of mine. So you're going to put the glue on it like that and then hurry up and close it and start pinching these edges together. That's what you're concentrating on right now, is getting those edges pinched before that glue dries, and get down in that V of the thumb and pinch those together. And you can see that I have a little glue sticking out there. And then when we take our pipe cleaner, and let me get one, and then we insert our pipe cleaner. So I just took one, bent it in half, and made a loop. And then you can put that in, and then take your sutures and take your stuffing, and then you can use that to get inside your mitt. I always try to get some up in the thumb. And if you want to use a white pipe cleaner, this is just what I had, was the tan. And before you do this, make sure that all of your edges of your oven mitt are permanently glued, that they're all closed up and that there's no openings. And you don't have to stuff this a lot. And then after you get it stuffed, you can kind of see where we need to trim. And I'm trying to find my tiny scissors. Okay, here they are. So we're going to take, and you're going to go very carefully and take just a little bit and cut off if you have any glue that's sticking out. Don't go too deep because you don't want to open up your seam. But if we flip it over, you can see, like right here, we kind of have a big seam. You can take and trim a little bit of that off. Just do a little bit at a time, and then we can trim up that thumb a little bit more. And if you want to make, I'll try to make the pattern on this thumb, I'll try to make the thumb a little bit longer so that you have room so you can cut it off so it's not too tiny. So that's our mitt for our Chef Gnome. And you can use this same pattern. You can use this for any gnome you want to, for snowmen. You can use it for any of your gnomes. So it's an easy way to make a mitt and have it closed and still have that thumb without having to sew it and turn it right side out, or having to hot glue it and turn it right side out, which never really looks that nice. So that's how we glue that. For our arms, I twisted the 2 pipe cleaners together. You're going to cut them in half. Let me back you up some. And you're going to cut them in half. I used my wire cutters. And then I just made a loop. I'm not worrying about getting the thumb bendable, but the hand will be. So I have that. You're going to do that to both of them. And the arm doesn't have to be very long, this pipe cleaner, because we don't want a lot of bulk up here under the hat, like up in here, okay? And that's why I liked the fleece, because it stretched. And I did one hat where I used like quilting fabric and I couldn't stretch it. So I ended up not using it. So now we're going to take and put this in. You can use white if you're afraid it's not going to show, but I use the tan on him. And then I take my sutures. I think that's what they're called. And you're just going to take a little bit of stuffing, and I kind of ball it up, and you're going to put it inside the mitt just to give it a little bit of padding. If you can get a little bit up into the thumb, this is what works great for that, is those little places. And then you flip it over and try to get some on the other side. I didn't try to get his mitts where they were too big. I didn't want him, you know, his hands looking too bulky. So just like that. And this could have been a little longer, but I'm not too worried about it. So you're going to put that in there, and then we're just going to take some stuffing. And do the same to this one. And then try to get a little bit up into the thumb. And now if you want, you can kind of see right here this seam where we glued it. If you want to trim, if you want to try and trim some of that so it's not as big, trim a little bit at a time. The rest of it looks pretty good. You can flip it over, maybe the side over here. So those are our no-sew mitts, and you don't even have to turn it right side out. So I think it actually looks pretty good. And I think I can stuff his thumb a little bit more. I have done the thumbs bendable, but this time I just decided not to. And so with this one, we can do the same. We can look at it and see if these seams are too big. We can just trim a little bit. But you got to make sure you're not trimming too much, so you're going to have a hole, because then you're going to have to try to get glue in there. Okay, so now we're going to take his, the batting, and I'm going to cut this down, because I don't have much. I'm sorry for my sniffling. And we're just going to, I'm going to move this mitt out of the way a little bit. I'm going to put some glue on part of that, lay that down, and I'm just going to roll it. And then I'm going to hold it there, put a bead of glue, and then roll it over and press it. And we'll cut that excess off. And I'll do the same thing to this one. I'm going to move that mitt out of the way. Excuse me. And then roll it. And then hold it down and then put a bead of glue. And then press it. And we'll take and cut this one off. And then we're going to cut some of that off. And you can use whatever scraps on the inside if you want. If you don't want, it's just kind of protecting if there's any sharp edges also. So I have two that I have glued. And you're going to take and insert your mitt or your arm that we just did. And you're going to take this seam and it's going to come over and match with this one. And we are going to take our sutures again, and we're going to try and poke that into his mitt. So you kind of got to work your way around. So you're going to pull your mitt away, and then you're going to tuck in the sleeve, or his part of his arm. Make sure the stuffing stays in there. So make sure this seam and this seam match. And then make sure your sleeve is tucked down there. Take a Kleenex, wipe. Make sure your glue gun is wiped. I like the Sure Bonder because of this tip. So then you can take and pull this up and get some glue in there. And I stick it down so my glue gun is down about in here, and then press it so the glue isn't going to squeeze out. And then we're going to do the same to the other one. I will do that and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I have both of his arms done, and then I'm just going to take glue and squeeze it inside there and press that so I can get that flat. And then we're going to glue that on in a little bit to his arm, to his body. So we're going to do his hat, and we'll do his nose. So you're going to take your circle, and this circle is about a 9-inch diameter circle all the way around. And okay, I'm going to give you, I loved, when I seen these, I knew exactly what I was going to use them for. And I got these at the Dollar Tree. This I got at Joann's. These are for making that balloon, those balloon, blown up balloon things. All these diameter circles. You can use the inner or you can use the outer. So that's what I did. And I think it was, this says 6-inch, but I think it's the inside. Okay. So these are from the Dollar Tree, where you find that balloon display thing for making some balloon displays or whatever. But they work great for patterns, for tracing. So all I did was take it, put it on my fabric, and trace around it. How cool. All right, so that's how that's where, and I've been using these for a while. I don't use them all the time, but I do use them. So now we're going to take our needle, and you're going to start, I always do it on the wrong side, and you're going to just do a running stitch. And it doesn't have to be small stitches, it can be big. And I just take and I'm pushing my fabric onto my needle. And if you get your needle and it doesn't want to come through very easily, take your fabric back here and pull it. That's probably the easiest way. Because sometimes if the fabric is too thick and your needle is too thick, it's hard to get your fabric through if you're doing like this. Just gotta make sure you don't poke your finger. So you're gonna go all the way around, and I'm probably going 1/4 inch from the edge, and I'm on the wrong side facing me. And I did do some other Chef Gnomes, and I used like the Jet Set knit fabric in white. And there was a pattern that I got off of YouTube when I had seen it. And I had to purchase it, so I can't give you guys that pattern. I can give you the video link probably to her video. And so you're going to work all the way around until you get back to where you started. And this part is not the part that goes around his head. This is his brim. This part is what we're doing right now, right there. And I always, most of the time, I leave my tails just in case. If I need to knot it off or if I'm gathering it. And so I'm going to turn this right side out like this. And I'm going to knot it. So if I pull it tight, it's not really going to matter because it's, I I don't need it a certain width, because if you get it too big, it's not going to work out. So I just pull it till all the gathers are together, and then I will just knot it up. And I do a few knots. And then you're going to cut that off. And I don't know if I'm going to get this done before my husband comes home from work. I've been working on this all day, you guys, off and on, with being sick too. So now we're going to take the brim of our hat, and I cut mine. I ended up making it smaller to go around here because I cut it bigger. So what we're going to do is we're going to glue this, and how I did it was I used the wrong side of the fabric, so I'm going to probably keep it that way. And it doesn't matter with our stitching, because we're going to try to glue like either right below that. So we're going to glue this together, and you're going to glue right side. So I'm actually gluing the right, or the, I think it's the wrong side. I'm gluing the wrong side because that's the side I want as the outside fabric. So whatever you want. So we're going to let that dry, and then we're going to work on his nose. And so you're going to take, and I will leave this below. You're going to take, and I'm just going to use the thread that I just used. And then make your knot, and I'm going to do on the wrong side, and I'm going to go about a 1/4 inch or so and do a gather stitch, just a running stitch. So you're just going to work your way around. You got to make sure you knot your end. And then we're going to stuff it. So you can do these noses for your gnomes too. You can either glue it on, or I'm going to show you how to sew it on. If you glue it on, I usually take a rubber band and we'll put it where I want it, and then wrap a rubber band going around the nose and around the body so it holds it. Because you have to make sure you hold it so that it stays. And I just have to make sure I have the right side of the fabric out. On this fabric, it's really hard to tell. This is the right side. So you're going to take a little bit of stuffing. And we don't want a huge nose. We want to try to keep it flat, but I like the oval one still. So you're going to tuck that in there. And I could still put a little bit more. So when you're trying to tuck it in there, you can also pull the thread so that it encases everything. So there's our nose. So now you're going to try and knot this. So that's why I left this long. So you're going to get that, and then you're going to try and hold that and keep tucking that stuff in. I know it can get difficult sometimes. And I will put my finger on the knot, or where I've just tied it, and pull it, and then you can tie it. I know it's hard for you to see because I'm wiggling this thing around, but you're just going to knot it off, pull it. You sometimes have to hold your knot when you do that first wrap. So if I was just knotting this, I'm going to take it, and I'm going to hold my finger, and then I'm going to Try and get this thread through there and tie it. And then just leave a little bit of tail. And if your nose needed to be adjusted, you can take like the needle I had showed you on the body and just push that fabric or that batting out. If there's some batting that needs to be in a certain spot. So there's our nose. So now I'm going to show you how. Well, first let's do his arms. And when you do his arms, make sure you know which is going to be the front and which is going to be the back. And actually, you know what? We're going to do his apron so we know where his apron is going to be. Let me get that and I'll be right back. Okay, so what I did with the fabric, so I'm trying to make this so you guys don't have to sew it. So this piece is, and I'll have it in the description box, is like 11 inches by 3.5. And I haven't stitched anything. I folded the ends in, and then I folded the top over. So the top and the sides about 1/4. And I ripped my fabric so I have a fringe, so then you don't have to hem that bottom. And then you're just going to press this all down. So you got this, each of these sides pressed over once. The sides are just once. You don't have to do them again. And you're going to press this over a second time. And then you're going to take, and you're going to run a bead of glue right on this piece. And then you're going to make sure your side is tucked, and you're going to press that down. And then you're going to find where you stopped. And I would go on the fabric that you folded because you might not get it down. You might not get it in the same spot if you do it right down here. So you gotta try to work quick. And that needs to get tucked in there. And then press that down, and then you can take this little roller and roll it down so it's nice and flat. And this is actually for your face. And I got it at, oh, what did I just do? So this is for your face, and I got this at the Dollar Tree. So I've been using it to press my seams when I started doing glue. If I wanted to press a seam, I gotta find a piece. And let's say you were gonna fold this edge over. And this is, I got this off of Temu. It's a seam roller. You can take and fold it over, try to hold it down, and then press it. And look at the difference. Look at that edge that you get from using that. So that kind of saves you from burning your fingers with the iron. Isn't that cool? I love that. So this is a seam roller. This is a seam, well, this isn't for your face, but I'm using it for when I do hot glue. So we have this side, and we can take and glue these sides down a little bit. So just add a little bit of glue there. And you want to make sure that your apron, I gotta back you up a little bit. Make sure your apron at least goes in the back about that much. If you want it, mine was almost too long. It could have been a titch shorter, but I wanted to bring his ties around the front. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So with this piece, and I will leave this in the description box. This piece is, I'm going to start at 10, 20, it's about 34 inches long. So you're going to find the middle, or first what you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half, and I've already started gluing this part. And so it's about 34 inches long and about 2 inches wide. So first, you're going to fold it in half and press it. Or you can use, if you have one of these, you can do that too. You can do this. And then you're going to open it up, and you're going to take one side and fold that to that middle that you just pressed, that middle seam. You're going to do the same to the other side. So first you folded the whole thing in half and pressed it, and then you opened it up, took one side, folded it to that middle and the other side, and then you're going to fold that in half, and you can either use your seam roller or your iron. And then I started gluing, and then I glued it shut. So just run a bead of glue and then press it. And you leave the middle open for right now. I'm just showing you how I'm doing this. Hopefully my head is not in the way. And then press that down. Okay, so I have the middle of my ties. So I just lined them up. Excuse my sniffling. And then pressed that seam. So I had a mark, so I knew where my middle was. And you can either do it with your fingers or whatever. And then you're going to do the same thing to your apron and find that middle. And then you're going to open this up. You're going to take this, because you haven't glued the middle part, and you're going to put a little bit of glue right, because our middle is right here, and you're going to line this up and press that right there. Okay, so I have this part here on this bottom part. So this is open. When we fold it, it's going to be like this, and it'll be our ties. I hope that makes sense. So now we want to finish gluing our apron on. And you're just going to put glue on this tie. And you're going to lay the top of that apron down and press it. And make sure you get all of the apron. And then to the other side. And press it. Make sure you get it up far enough, really close to the middle. And press that down. And now we can glue this to the top of the apron. So I would go on the tie on that strip. And then you have to hurry up if you did a long bead of glue like I did. Excuse me. And then do the other side. Because if you put it on the apron tie, then you know that you're going to not get, that you'll get it in the right spot. If you put it on the apron, this might not get in that same spot you have the glue on. And then do the rest of the apron tie. And press that down. And we're gonna let that sit. Oh, if I don't like this video, I'm not gonna post it, you guys. But you won't know that. So I did one pocket. So how I did the pocket, the pocket is about 2.5 inches. How big is it? My kitty is saying it's supper time. 2.5 inches by about 4.5. And I just took both sides, folded them over, and then I have the bottom edge. That's going to be the bottom edge of the pocket. I just have it frayed. And then you're going to fold it in half. You're going to press your seams. And then you're going to put glue. You can just put it on one side. You don't have to do it on both sides. And then this is going to be your pocket. So you want everything to line up. I'll be right back. So then when you have your glue on there, close it, both sides, and then press it. And you want to make sure it looks nice from the front, because we're going to glue down here, across the bottom and up, and then leave this open. So we're going to find where the middle of his apron is, and then we're going to try this on. So we want a pocket over here, and I'm just going to pin that. Actually, my fabric matches up. Ah, did not realize that. And then you're going to do this one. This one might not. And then you're going to pin this one. Just pin it to the apron. Don't pin it to him, so that you know where you want to glue it. And my pockets probably could have been a little shorter. But what you're going to do is take one side. Let's see if I'm in camera here. You're going to flip it over. And then do one side. See a little glue seeped out. And then you can take your pin out when you get one side done. And then do the bottom. Don't glue your fringe. Just go right above the fringe. And press that down. And then do the other side. So put it on the pocket. And then glue that. And now we're going to do the other one. So you're going to flip this over and glue the pocket right along the edge. Press it down. And you can take your pin out. And then you're going to do the bottom. So get enough glue on there. Press that down. And then you're going to do the other side. And press that down. And if you get a little bit of glue, if you let it dry, you can usually get it off. Sometimes, if you can't, I take a lighter. I don't want to get really close to it. Enough so the heat will melt it and then get rid of that whiteness. There's our apron. Let me take a break and get straightened up, and we'll finish this up. Okay, I'm back. So we are going to put the arms on and the nose. So I have placed it, I figured out where I wanted it, and I put my apron on. And that's about where I want my apron. And I want his arms to come down just over the apron. So I pin them on before I glue them. And then I kind of did the same thing with the nose. And then since we haven't finished the hat, we take the brim of the hat and I try it on to see if if it's too big. If it's too big, then you can, make it smaller. If it's too small, then you have to cut another one and start over. So that's why I usually make it bigger, because then I can always make it smaller and I'm not wasting making a whole nother piece. So this is about the right size that I want. So we are going to, we're going to just glue the arms on. I sewed the ones on the one I made previous. But this one, we're just going to glue them on. So you're going to have to make sure when you put the apron on and his arms that you've got the arms going toward the front and the apron on the front. And I didn't glue the apron on, but when I did the ties, I'll show you how I did that. So we're going to glue these on so they can sit. And I probably bumped my camera again. And I've got those right on the side seam there. So they're going right along the side seam. And that's why I made the arms shorter down here, so I wouldn't have that bulk up here for the hat. And the nose we're going to sew on. And so I've got some thread here. Hopefully it's strong enough. And I want my nose about here, so I'm going to start in the back. And I've got my thread knotted. And I'm going to come through the front. Let me get you a little closer. Let's see if I can prop him up on something. So I'm going to have my nose right about here, and I'm coming through the front on this side of his nose, and his arm is coming off. So I'm going to poke that needle through, and my thread is not knotted enough. Actually, I'm going to just give me just a minute. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I have a stronger thread, and I've knotted it, and I'm going to go in the back, right up here by the top, and I'm going to come down on the front on the side of my nose, and I'm just going to bring that needle through, and then I'm going to go in to the top and like the back part of the nose and to the other side like that. And I'm going to pull that through, and I'm going to kind of tighten it up, and I'm going to go, when I tighten it up, it will kind of guide me to where that needle needs to go through his body. So right about there. And then we're going to go to the right, coming out the back, right up at the very top. And you're going to pull that tight. And then you're going to go back close to that spot. And now you're going to try to go down below that, this one that you just went from the front to the back. So this one we just did. Now we're coming out kind of right below that, maybe 3/8 of an inch. And then you're going to do the same. You're going to go into the nose on the back side of the bottom and come out the other side. And make sure you've tightened up your thread. And now we're going to go into the body, and then we're going to come out. We want to come out up by the neck again. And if you wanted, like my nose is kind of pointing up, I could do that again and go through there and tighten it up. But I think it'll be okay once we tighten this, or knot this thread. So I'm just going to cut this excess off. And tie a couple of knots. And that's how you can sew your noses on. If you wanted to glue it, you would put the glue on the center of your nose, get a rubber band, and put your rubber band going around from here to the back, and then let it sit until it dries. And if you wanted to, before you get too much further with your any other part of your gnome, if you wanted to take, and you're going to be really careful, is to pull out some of that stuffing for his nose, like on the bottom here, because you can kind of see where it's a little indented there. If we're really careful and just pull it out, we don't want to have our needle come through the fabric. So you're just trying to push some of that stuffing. And I did. I just poked my needle through there. Hopefully it'll be okay. I might be able to put some glue on there because the beard might be there. So I'm going to put a little dot of glue right there. But his beard should cover that. So that's what you don't want to do. Just what I did. Okay, so we're going to wait because his... Well, one thing I wanted to mention with the... iron, or with the apron, is I will take and I will iron it, but you got to be careful because you might be remelting some of that glue. So I just want to press it so that everything is nice and flat. And my iron is hot. I had to make sure. But like I said, you got to be careful so you don't press it too much. And then you've reheated your glue and melted it. And then you might have to make sure you don't get any glue on your iron. So just so we can press it and have everything nice and flat. Just like that. Okay. And so we've got the apron done. Now we're going to work on the hat. And I have it with the right side, even though I have my knot right here. This is going to be the right side, but you're not really going to see that because when we come down and glue it, we're going to glue it below this gathering stitch. So you're going to take your brim and you're going to turn it wrong side out. So we're putting both of the right sides of the hat, top of the hat, and the brim of the hat together. And it doesn't matter where this seam is because there's no really seam on this hat. So you can line it up and then just take some pins and go around it. And then you can make sure your gathers are evenly spaced. And I think my hat is too small for my brim. So what I'm going to do is I don't want the part that's going to go over his nose any smaller. So what I can do is just take and glue it at an angle up here. So I'm actually just going to cut this off. But I'm going to leave this part down here glued. And I'm going to open that up and put some glue. And this will be in the back of his head anyway, so you won't really see it. I gotta make sure I get the rest of that. Okay, so we're going to let that sit. We can put his apron on. So just kind of figure out where you want it. Try to get, and we'll do his beard. Try to center the beard, or the apron, so that the nose is like in the center of the pockets there. And then I take it around. And if you want to keep it knotted in the back, and you don't want to have that in the front, then just, you can tie it and knot it and keep it in the back, and then you're just going to cut the excess off. So I didn't knot it in the back. I did knot it in the back. So we're going to do that, and when you knot it, you're going to see on your tie, you might be able to see where you folded, where the folded edges and where these two edges came together. I try to keep these edges we folded together down so they're not pointing up. So when I tie this, that's what I'm looking at, is to make sure that they're both down, and they are. And then I take and I keep it wrapped around up here on the rest of the tie. And then I do the same thing. So I think since we have pockets in the front, if I put a tie over here, it's going to cover this pocket. And if I do the same thing, it'll be over here. So I think we're just going to keep this one in the back. But if you wanted to wrap it around the front, like I did that one, you bring it over to one side. And you might have to make it a little bit longer. And then I just tied it like that. And I glued everything down. I didn't sew it or anything. I just didn't even tie another knot. I just glued it and then cut my excess off. Okay. But we're just going to keep it in the back. And I've already got it tied. And I'm going to just cut those at an angle. And now his hat should be ready. So we're going to turn it. We'll keep it like this, right side. So the top angled part, this is where we're going to sew this to. So we're going to insert this in here and see if I have it small enough now. And like I said, it doesn't matter where you line up this seam because there's no seam on the top of the hat. And my hat is still too small. I'm going to take a break and I'm going to take out this gather and make it a little bigger, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. So I have this redone and I haven't knotted anything yet. So what I'm going to do is take and leave this. So remember the angled part, the longest part up here is, that's the brim, sorry. So this part up here is the top, what we want to sew together. So the widest part's going to go down by his nose. But yours is probably going to be straight because you wouldn't have made this mistake. So I'm going to leave that needle on there. And I'm going to put this in. And so you want to do this first. So when you get your gnome made, try your material around. Let me grab a piece if I have something that's long enough. Okay, let me cut a strip and then I will show you quick. So if you have your gnome made, you have your nose on, and like I said, I will leave all the supplies and stuff in the description box, or the PDF also. So you can try this and see if you're going to have it come over his nose, but this is going to stretch. So try to figure out how much you need to take it in. If it's too big, like this, I could probably take in about an inch or so. So do that first, and then when you have that sewed, then do your circle, gather that, and before you knot it off, put it inside the brim and make sure everything fits and it's the same, that one isn't bigger than the other, and that when you glue it together, everything is going to lay nice, okay? So I'm going to cut my needle, and then we're just going to knot this. And you won't see this because this will be on the inside of his hat. And don't pull your thread or your string too tight, because then you'll probably tighten up the top of his hat. And then cut those excess off. And then put your needle in your pin cushion. And now what we're going to do, we're going to get our clips and our glue gun. And we don't really have to pin this because it looks like it's staying. But I'm going to start by the seam. And let me get you a little closer. And I'm just going to kind of move this away, and I'm going to go to a little bit at a time. I'm going to go maybe 1.5 inches, couple inches. I'm going to make sure those are stuck together, and then I'm going to press them together, and then I'm going to clip it. And you're going to do that all the way around. And put the glue on the top of the hat. And make sure you don't leave any gaps when you put that glue on, that there's no gaps in your bead of glue that you're putting along the edge. And then clip it, so press them together and then clip them. And like I said, if you run out of clips, you can probably go back, take the first couple off, because those should be dry. And you're going to do that all the way around, like I said, and then you're going to let this dry really good before we turn it right side out. I'm going to take these first 3 off. And then clip those. And we'll let that sit. So while that's drying, I'm going to show you how to cut that black off the beard. And I'm just going to lay some Kleenex down here so that the Kleenex can catch the black. So what I did, because you can see the black, and I don't want that on there. I want it to look like that color. So what I did is I would cut your beard a little bit longer, because we're going to end up cutting some of that off. I've got his already done right there, but I'm going to show you on another one. So I'm kind of shaking this hair down, or if you have a comb or a brush, you can do that too. So what I do, and I think you can see the black there, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going in like this, and when I go in, I'm cutting. I don't want to cut like this, because then I'm going to have all straight hair, and I don't want it straight, I want it fringy. So, and we're going in and cutting those ends. We're not going in here, we're just trying to cut the ends. If you want to leave the black on, you can do that. If you want a different color beard, you can do it whatever color you want. I like to match the color of my beard with the colors of my gnome. And you're just going to work your way down. So I'm kind of flipping, turning it. So this is folding over and trying to get these other ones. And it took me a little bit to do this, because I would get most of it off and then I would brush it out and see how it looks. So that isn't too bad. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the shape of it. And not always do I put it to a point. I will round it at the bottom of the beard like that. And I can still see some black, so I'm going to just hang on to the top of it and let it kind of fold over on itself like this. And I can see where that little bit of black is still. And I'm going in and I'm cutting. So when I go in, I cut. I'm not going like this, I'm going in, so that's going to keep it fringy, if that's a word. Because what I did, I tried to dye, which I've done before on my Facebook group, which is no longer, probably a couple of years ago. I took some cream colored or ivory fur and dyed it with acrylic paint and water, and it actually worked, but it didn't keep the fur smooth and nice and shiny. It kind of got it matte looking, which I didn't, it was okay, but, and then I didn't like the color of it either. I don't know if I know where it is. So now we're just going to see what it looks like. And you might have to go in at an angle and do these sides and go up. And I can still see a little bit of too much black at the bottom down there. So you'd keep doing that until you're happy with it, okay? So I have this one done. Let me get rid of this. And I'll just put another Kleenex out here so you can see. So you can see that there is very little black on there. Then what I did to get it from this to this, I used my blow dryer. So I'm going to show you. And you may want to turn your volume down because it's going to get a little noisy. And I'm sorry I keep hitting my camera. And so we're just going to take the blow dryer and we're going to blow this. And then it's going to make it look like this. It kind of fans it out and breaks up all those ends. And if you have anything that's going to blow, you might want to move it. So it's going to get a little noisy. And that's how I do that. You can do it a little bit more, but that looks pretty good. And then what I would do, and I've already got mine cut, is I take and cut a U shape out. And then that's going to get tucked under his nose. So I'm going to set that aside. So I have this one already done. And there's a little bit of black on the bottom. And we're going to take and put some glue underneath right there. And just be careful so you don't get glue on his nose when you're putting it on. I'm going to get this down here so I can lay him down. So you're going to pull it up a little bit and then tuck it under there. Pull up those side tabs. Make sure everything is even. And I'll have to probably trim this a little bit here. And then glue these tabs right up alongside of his nose. And I got that drip of glue before it dried. So make sure you watch your glue so it doesn't drip on your nose. At least if you sewed it and you got glue on your nose, you could cut it and, you know, cut the threads and then sew a new one. So I would take, I guess it's not too bad. So now we have his pockets here, and then we can put stuff in his pockets. So we'll take his hat. His hat should be dry. And you can take all your clips off. And then you just want, if you want to check it before you turn it, it looks pretty good because we got enough glue on there. And there's his hat. If this is too long for you, you can cut this and you don't have to sew it. When I did his, I sewed it. So I had to I had to backstitch where I had cut it shorter because I didn't want the seam to come apart. So then we can take this and put this on his head. And I think I'm going to cut it. I think it's a little long. So we're just going to fold this, turn it inside out, and I'm just going to get a pair of longer scissors. And I'm going to cut probably a 1/2 inch, 3/8 of an inch off. And I might be able to just cut this off and then glue it straight down if it seems like it's too big. You can make, if you wanted to make your brim a different color, you could do that. I like it to be stretchy though, because it's much easier to get on their head and stuff than if it's not a material that stretches. So we can put that on. And I think what I'm going to do here is cut this, because it seems like it comes to a point in the back. So I'm going to cut that point off. And then I pull it over his nose, and then I pull it up to where I think I want it. And then I'm going to flip them over. I'm going to turn this up and try to hang on to it and him. And I'm going to put my glue on the hat. And I need a glue stick. And then you're just going to take and push that down and press it. And then we can do the front of his hat so you can get his beard out of the way. And now I'm going to put the beard on the nose, just at the top. And if I want it to come down over his nose more, I can pull it just like that. And then I'm going to glue these sides. Make sure you get your beard out of the way. So you can lift that up. And then do the other side. So there's our gnome. If you're still needing to cut this, I kind of like to cut it so it's shorter and then angles down into like a point. And then what I did was I just took some of the same material we used on the apron and I tore it and cut a strip. And then I'm going to cut, I probably cut these in about 5-inch strips, and I cut 4 of them. And I put 2 that were wrong sides together, and then the other 2 wrong sides together. And I took 1 set of the 2 and just tied it in a knot around the other one. And I'm trying to make sure that the wrong sides stay together. And then pull that knot. And then we're going to trim these. I got to get the right ones together. And then I just took and trimmed them at an angle. And then we can glue that on his hat. And I'm going to glue it on this side. I don't know, I like this side more for putting stuff on than I do the other side. So we're going to glue that right there. Actually, I could go back a little further. And how I made I know I got it here. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So how I made the rolling pin was I bought these plugs, and I'm not sure what they're called. They came with the little grooves, and I drilled holes very carefully. I didn't even have to go very deep in each end. And then I found the right size bit, and a skewer was just the right size to fit in that hole. So then I just took a little bit of glue, put the skewer in there, and then trimmed them off. And then once that's dry, I just used a nail file to kind of sand down the ends. And I may have gotten a little bit too much glue on that one. And so once that's dry, I would take a nail file, like on these ones, and just round those ends so they weren't sharp. And then they will stay. You could use, if you want to use a wood glue, you could use a wood glue too. Glue gun's always quicker. And then we have a rolling pin. So we can put that in his pocket. And then I got a bunch of these. I think they came, I don't know if they came all in a set. There was fork, knife, and a spoon, and they were like a bronze, this antique gold, sort of like an antique silver, if you want to call it. So I can take, see if I have, well, let's see if I have a copper, because I don't want gold, because I have gold in his fabric. So I can take and put that in his apron with his rolling pin. I have this spoon, and I think I got this at Hobby Lobby, I'm not sure. And I could sew this to the top of his apron like I did those other ones. You can, and what I got at some thrift stores is these spoons that everybody used to collect. So you could use that. You could just paint over that. It says Michigan. Doesn't mean anything to me. Wouldn't bother me to paint over that. And then you can tuck that. You can have him holding it. Tuck it in the apron pocket. I have gotten these from a specialty shop in my store. And they had, this says Ben Franklin, but I know I didn't get this at Ben Franklin. It was at the specialty store, and it's a tiny little grater. It is the perfect size for him to hold. So I would just put that in his hand and then just glue everything so that it stays, and so he's hanging on to it. So it's going to take, you'd have to clamp it to get it to stay. So you could do that. And if you wanted a towel, how I made my towel was I had some fabric that had a fringe on it. So I use that to my advantage. So I cut a piece, just a small piece like this, and I didn't do anything with the sides except fold them over. And then you can tuck it in his pocket. And I would glue it down so it stays down. And if you have to use like your sutures to kind of get it in there, you can do that too. And then I would just take a couple dabs of glue on the side and lightly glue it down. What I did do on one that I made, and my sister-in-law bought it, was I embroidered, I can't remember what the lady's name was, Deb's Kitchen on the towel. Of course, I did that on a embroidery machine. So you could do that if you have an embroidery machine. So there is our gnome. And I did have, and I forgot, I bought some of the food stuff like this. It's from the miniature section at Hobby Lobby. And that's where I got this also was there. And then this cookbook, it came probably from another package, same place. So this one has cookies. So I can take and glue that to his hand. I think I'll glue it in this one. And just put some in the middle. And then you can bend his arm, his hand a little bit so he's like holding it. You could have a spoon in the other hand. And if you wanted to make this bigger, you're just going to enlarge your pattern. So it depends on how big you want to make it. So if you have any questions, let me know. And you can see the size difference. If I kind of, this one I put cardboard in, but you really don't need to. Because if you get enough rice in the bottom, they will sit up. So I think they turned out cute. I liked this fabric with the tan fleece. So if you have any questions, leave those in the description box, in the comments. If you like this video, click the like button, and that will tell me that you want to see more videos like this. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to join my crafting community and click on that subscribe button and hit the bell. That's going to notify you when I upload a new video. So I will leave the pattern for this in the description box. There'll be a link, so it's right below this video. You might have to click on the word more or down arrow, something like that, and then you can make this. But yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know. I love you guys. I will see you in the next video. Thank you.